by himself, which he could easily have done as the head of the Red Army, and of course with the tremendous respect that he had, and effectively was exiled and killed. But he remained the pole of attraction in the world as the person and the grouping which was able to say social one country is impossible, a new social group has taken power there, what exists there is not socialism. His conception of worker state, in my view, was flawed, was internally contradictory, and unlike the SPGB, I don't regard it as state capitalist. In a certain sense, I regard it in both a moral and a real sense as far worse than that. It wasn't socialist and it wasn't capitalist. And I've spent a lot of time, in fact, my whole life, trying to work out the way it actually works. But it does appear to me, in that respect, Trotsky was only beginning this process. And so when he says the nature of the Soviet Union is undetermined, that is the way we should actually see it. But he remained a beacon of hope, one of the few beacons of hope standing for socialism. Thank you.
Not that we expedite matters, no talk from me. Adam Buick on behalf of the Socialist Party.
Right. Did Trotsky point the way to socialism? I want to reply on behalf of the Socialist Party. No, he didn't. And what he pointed the way towards was state capitalism. But first of all, if we're going to have a debate on whether somebody points the way to socialism or not, we need to define our terms. And of course, the key term to define here is socialism. So what is socialism? I think one good way to understand what socialism is to see it as the opposite of capitalism, the society we've got today. Now, capitalism is, for a start, a class society. It's class-based. It's divided into classes, where a tiny minority of the population own and control the means of wealth production, either directly as individuals or through companies and corporations or through the state. That's the basis of capitalism, and this tiny minority is in a privileged position with regard to control of means of production, but also in regard to consumption. Now, socialism, by contrast, will be a classless society. In socialism, everybody will stand in the same relationship with regard to the control of the means of wealth production. Everybody will have equal say in the way in which society is run. That's a basic feature of socialism, as compared with capitalism. Capitalism is based on class ownership. Socialism is based on common ownership and democratic control. Now, another feature of capitalism, which everybody accepts, even those that support the capitalist system, is that it's a system of production for profit. In other words, if you like, an alternative name for capitalism is the profit system. The basic economic law of capitalism is no profit, no production. But this has all sorts of consequences. First of all, it means that production stops at the point at which it ceases to be profitable. So capitalism is a system of artificial scarcity. It also results in waste of various capitalist institutions and in a distortion. The people who've got money can have their whims satisfied, while people who in desperate need of something don't get them satisfied. Now, socialism, on the other hand, will be a system of production for use. In other words, in a socialist system of society, we'll grow food for people to eat, we'll build houses for people to live in, we'll construct railways and roads for people to get from A to B. That's what socialism is. It's a system of production geared to satisfying people's needs, and not a system of production for the market with a view to profit. Now, the other feature of socialism, or capitalism, which is linked up with the last one, is that in order to survive in capitalism, you have to get money. Well, basically, there are about 3 or 4 ways of getting money. I mean, the easiest and the best way is to inherit it. But if you're not in that position, then you've either got to beg for money, or you've got to steal it, or you've got to go out onto the labour market and try to sell your ability to work for a wage or a salary. And that's what most people have to do. But of course, the amount of goods and services you can consume is restricted by the size of your wage packet or by the size of your salary check. In other words, it's a system of rationing. Now, the basic rule of capitalism, another basic rule of capitalism is can't have, or can't pay, can't have. Now, by contrast, socialism is a system of production to satisfy people's needs, where people have free access to what they need in accordance with the principle from each according to their ability, to each according to their needs. Everything will be free: free transport, free housing, free electricity. That's what socialism means as compared with capitalism. Of course, it means there's no money, there's no wages, and there's no market. But there is one thing which both capitalism and socialism have in common, and that is capitalism is already a worldwide system of society, so that socialism, which is going to take over from capitalism and is going to build on what capitalism has built up, has to be a worldwide system of society. We entirely agree that the idea of socialism in one country is preposterous. So that's what socialism is. It's a system of common ownership and democratic control with production to satisfy people's needs. It's a worldwide system, moneyless, wageless, and classless. Now, did Trotsky stand for that system of society? I've been reading through some of the articles which Hillel wrote for a magazine, a paper called The Weekly Worker. And I was surprised to see that he agrees with this definition of socialism. He calls it socialism. He doesn't call it communism. In fact, what's even more surprising is that he says that there's no distinction between socialism and communism. Now, this is surprising for me anyway, because the rejection of any distinction between socialism and communism has been the one thing which has distinguished the SPGB from all Leninist groups, not just Trotskyists, but Maoists, Castroists, followers of Che Guevara, who all make this distinction between socialism and communism. And I think that Trotsky did too. I mean, this distinction was introduced by Lenin, who, just before the Bolshevik Party took power, people said to him, "You're mad. You want to establish socialism in Russia? It's impossible. It's a backward country. We can't have production directed use. We can't abolish money. We can't abolish the state." And Lenin said, no, you've got it wrong. We don't want to establish communism. That's communism. What we want to establish is socialism. And he redefined socialism to mean, this is in the State and Revolution, it's a society where all the means of production are owned by the state, where everybody becomes an employee of the state, and where everybody is paid equal wage. Now that was the position, the same position that Trotsky accepted. He agreed with Lenin that society cannot pass directly from capitalism to socialism, or socialism and communism. It had to pass through this transitional society, which in fact, if you analyse it, is some sort of utopian state capitalism. So if in fact Hillel accepts that you can pass straight from capitalism to socialism and communism, then he's already rejected one of the ways which Trotsky pointed to try and get to socialism with or without inverted commas. So it's had to pass through state capitalism. But anyway, what is the way which we say, in which socialism, what is the way of socialism according to us? Well, we say that socialism can only be established through the democratic political action of